as I was preparing to come up here and think about, what my message would be today. I've been thinking about it for a couple of months now, ever since Victor asked me to give the keynote. And, I just really wanted to make sure that I do this in the proper way and then introduce myself. Chief Honey, Chief Gilbert, Chief Joseph, chiefs of our 42 tribes, and my dear tribal members and friends, I'm honored to be standing here before you today. Sitsia Edgar Nallner, Sitsu Angie Nallner, Sitsia Joe Roberts, Sitsu Blina Starr, Ita Lawrence Roberts, Ina Josephine Roberts. And I want to give a big shout out to my mom, Josephine Roberts, who's in the Galena Elders home right now. I know I hope, that somebody lets her know that her daughter is doing fine. She's 97 years old, and she's still as spunky as ever, always was. So is Julie Roberts-Hyslop. I want to recognize my husband, Tom Hyslop. I can't see him. Where is he? Oh, way back there. Yay! Thank you for being here today, Tom. It means a lot to me. I want to recognize my brother and my sisters, my in-laws. They're all back here, my nieces and nephews. Please stand, my family. My family, my sister Donna Mae Folger, my goddaughter Dana. This is my family over here. But especially I want to welcome other parts of my family, and that's my sons, Nick Roberts, and my other son, Raymond Hyslop, over here. Very proud of my children. And I have a son at home, Harris Hyslop, who's taking care of my baby, and that's my dog. Somebody gotta watch my baby. We just got her this past year. And so it's good to have a pet again. It's been years since I had a pet. But I want to do a special recognition to, the Tanana wolves. Please come over here, Tanana wolves. Please come over here, Tanana wolves. Please come over here, Tanana wolves. They're going to represent us in the 1A state basketball, high school boys basketball team this year. They worked hard all year to be where they're going. But I want to do a special shout out to the village of Minto. And Keith, thank you for giving these boys a run for their money. Minto has always been a tough team. And so I just recognize Minto. And I want to recognize all of our youth who keep our villages going. These boys, they could have choices to go places, go to different schools, but they choose to be in our own hometown, in our own villages. And I'm so proud to have our youth stay at home and keep us together, because they're our pride and joy. And I just love you guys so much, and good luck. Wish you all the best luck. So they're on their way to Anchorage, and they got to be leaving here soon. So I love you, my son. And just have lots of fun, you guys, and represent our interior region here, the Golden Heart, with all of your heart. Basi. And before I get too far into my speech, I also want to do another thank you. And it's to a very special friend who's been helping me, not only as an executive board member, but as a vice president for as long as I can remember. And I'd like to ask Norma Dahl to come up here, please. Norma? Please come up here.
You really don't know how much I miss you. We're going to expect you at every meeting.
You know, Norma, you know, people are behind the scenes, just like you have family members behind the scenes at home who are always, you know, willing to help. But Norma has really been she's always there. And anytime I call, she always makes sure that she responds as soon as possible. So Norma, I just really want to thank you so much, you know, for all you do, not only for me, but for all of us. You know, you really helped put this convention together, and you've been there for so many years. Thank you, Norma.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie, so
Yes.
much.
I was going to say that. And so in my family, when we were growing up, you know, my mom, she always expected the girls to have many skills. I want to thank my sister Jeanette for always helping me. When I ask her to do something, she's always there to help me with the sewing machine. She's the expert in the sewing machine. And I'm kind of the expert in the moose skin and fur stuff. But thank you, my sister. First of all, I just want to tell you about the first time Tanana Chiefs formed. I was 7 years old in Tanana. And I was probably running around being mischief because, you know, when you're that young, you don't know. You just run around and be mischief. You don't pay attention to what's going on. But at that time, a very important event was happening. And that was the forming of Tanana Chiefs Conference. And I could tell you today that I never realized that one day I would be standing here before the convention. And probably the chiefs back then never realized how huge and how important this organization would be to each and every one of us. And when I was growing up in my village, I felt very protected. I was loved. I was accepted for who I was. It didn't matter if I had messy hair or a dirty face, or that my mom always had to put cold cream on my hands because I was always chapped hands and playing out in the mud all the time. But that's what a young child does. And you're carefree. And you're just living your little life, not knowing what's going to happen to you next. And so, you know, our communities right now, how important our villages are to each and every one of us. When I started thinking about the theme, Chiwitzin, that, you know, to me, you know, I'm not a speaker of the language, but I know what the word means. And I think each one of us have that in us because we grew up with Native values. And our values, what is a value? You start thinking about what is values. It's everything. Number one is Tanana, our God, our Creator. That's got to be our first value that we have. And we have to respect that. Because when we call on our God, He answers us. He's there for us. Whether we know it or not, He'll always be there for us. And so that's the number one value that I have in my own life. My family, that's the other thing that I cherish. and our family has made us who we are. It makes us who we are. And so, I was trying to write a speech and have things written down and be organized and my little book. But, a long time ago, our chiefs, they didn't stand here with pieces of paper in their hand and, looking over their notes to see if they forgot anything. They pretty much spoke from the heart because they want to give you a message. And I know it's going to be hard to leave working for the organization, but I feel so excited, and I've been telling everybody, excited and happy about going home to my own community, my own village, my own people, my own friends, and just working at that level again, because that's where I started, in my own village. But God had plans for me, and so I just accepted what was happening. And the other thing that I cherish, and I think that we all cherish, is where we live and our land. Because who would we be if it was not for our land? I totally love being out there. I love going to fish camp. I love going moose hunting. I just love being out there, walking along the beach and looking at the mighty Yukon River. It's beautiful, it's peaceful. It just gives you so much peace. And I know people who live out there appreciate that. And for the people who live in the cities, I know you know where your home is. I know you know where you belong. And you know where you belong. And you need to remember to teach your kids that. Never forget to teach them who they are and where they belong. And so, I was thinking about the changing world, because things have changed in the last 100 years. And I think about, my mom and my dad and how they lived 100 years ago. They didn't have this little thing here. This little thing has really changed our world. Good or bad, it doesn't matter. It's here. And we just have to learn how to live with it and go along with how we can take advantage of that. Because we can't go backwards, we can only go forward. And I just hope that, our young people will always know that you need to communicate directly. Look people in the eye. Don't only look at this thing. Look people in the eye and tell them how you feel, what you think. Because if you just only look at this thing, that's no way to communicate. You got to remember that. Communicate in a human form, not in a technology form. And I just appreciate, you young people for being here. And it's not, easy standing up here, letting people know about how you feel. It's scary coming up here. Believe me, it's not easy standing up here before a whole room full of people. And for some of the people, I don't know a lot of you people. But I would like to know you. And I'm not going to learn about you through this thing, that's for sure. And then, and I was thinking about, when Victor asked me to come up here and give the keynote, I wasn't really nervous or scared, because I know this is like one of my last times that I'm going to be coming up here, standing before you as a representative on the executive board. But that does not mean that I don't have a voice. I'll always know who my voice is. I'll always know and share my opinions. And so, I was also wanting to see about what could we do to make sure that our culture, what does that mean? I know it has different meanings for us, but I think about the sharing, how our people taught us how to share. And I always think about when I was a young girl, I used to love to sit with the old people. One of my fondest memories is Sarah and Jimmy Albert. They were just an old couple. But the songs, the way that they sang the Indian songs, it was just beautiful because they were always singing. And I loved old people. And I love old people today. I respect them. And I want to do everything I can to help them. Even though I'm getting to be, I'll be 64 this year. I'm getting an elder myself, as you can see my gray hair. But, that's something that we have to do. And just listening to the stories about what's going on with the state budget. I always say we're simple people. We don't expect much. But we expect to make sure that people have food on their table, that people are taking care of the elders with heating wood, and that people are sharing their food. I want to thank my son, Nick, back in Minto. He's always making sure that elders have rabbits to eat, birds to eat. He's always sharing his food with the elders in Minto. And I just love you for that, Nick, for sharing. That's an important value that we share, that we pass on to our young people. Never forget your neighbor. And I love what Chief Luke Titus said, because that's important words there. And that's why he's where he's at today, because they're wise and they teach us. They teach us to believe. And I wanted to, I lost my little notes here on this crazy thing here. But, I just really want to say, to the people in Tanana, I'm so excited about going home. I'm so excited about being back in my own village, to where I don't have to go to DC, I don't have to go to Juneau, because there's things that I want to do in Tanana. And one of the things I want to do is I want to learn how to Tana Muskin. And I know that Auntie Madeline Williams said she'd help me. Bless her heart, for offering. But there's young ladies in my village who don't know how to sew. I want to help them learn how to sew. My mom took the time to teach me, and I want to be able to teach that skill because it's important. And then talking about the greenback, the gold, we can't place that value before anything else. That's just not Native people. And I think that once we start making money more important than friendship, our world's going to go to hell, basically. So we got to make sure that even though we do need that today, we need to be able to have more than that. Because I think love is more important than money. I think that sharing is more important than keeping everything for yourself. And then I wrote down some things, that I thought was important. Sometimes we face things in our life that seems like we'll never be able to overcome, but we must never give up. Just think of our grandparents or parents. If they had given up, we would not be here today. We must never feel alone. There will always be somebody to listen. What would my advice be for the young people here in this room today or back in our village? Know that you're always loved. Know that you're unique, and that we must live our day, each day, the best of our ability. We must continue to learn as much as we can. Always strive to be a better person. Be proud of yourself. No one is a failure. Even if others say something to you, help each other. Even if it's just one kind word. Be truthful, be honest, because they always told us what goes around comes around. Somehow it just comes back. Don't be afraid to get out there in the world. There's a big world out there. And I was fortunate enough to be able to travel to a foreign country when I was 16. Both Tom and I went to Japan. And can you imagine going to a foreign country where nobody spoke English, just Japanese? That was an amazing experience. But it really made me appreciate, going there and just seeing. And one of our counselors was our executive director, Dorothy Jordan. She went along with us and chaperoned us. I don't know how the heck she did that, but quite a brave lady. Become involved in our tribes and our corporations. They're both important. And we will always depend upon our young, thoughtful minds. I want to leave you a story about a strong Indian woman that I always admired. Her name was Abby Joseph. She was a very, very strong woman. She walked all the way to Denali. She caught a moose, skinned it, and brought it back home for her family. That's how strong she was. And later in her life, she got cancer, and they had to amputate her leg. That didn't stop her. It didn't stop her from wheeling herself around the village. And she was always smiling, always happy, always greeting you. And I always remember that. She was determined to live her life to the fullest until the Lord took her home. Even though we have a lot of modern conveniences today, we must always be thankful for what we have. So after today, when I returned home, I was talking about my bucket list. It's a mile long. And now I have time to go home and do some of that stuff. But I'm going to miss all of you coming to the convention. I'm still on my tribal council, but I won't be, like our chief here, Curtis Summer. I just want to just be in the back scene and just doing things in the back scene. And I just really want to, from the bottom of my heart, say thank you. And abase to each and every one of you for everything that you do every single day, for each and every one of the people that you represent. You're amazing people. And I love each and every one of you. And I will always love you. And I have a phone number. Try not to call me too often, but you guys can call me if you want to. If you need help with something, I'm just a phone call away. But I know my husband has to live here very soon, but you know, we try to work as much as we can to support ourselves. And I know that it's tough in this day and age, but we don't need much. As long as we have food in our freezers and that we could take care of our families, I think that's the most important thing, is taking care of our families. Because each child that grows up will remember what you did for them. I always remember the elders in my own village when they always took me in. I remember one time, one of the ladies back home, she was, I think I was kind of her special pet, but she won a bicycle, and I was just a little kid. But she gave me that bicycle. It was way too big for me, but she gave it to me anyway. But I never forgot that. Her name was Margaret Cochrane. And my mom, she had Margaret and Gregory, they had a thing for cats. And they had cats all over in their house, but they also had a pan house that they run. And so people were always at the pan house, you know, but I was just a little kid playing around in the back. But my mom always used to give her porcelain cats. And their house burned down. And so all those little things, you know, like that, you know, went up in the fire. But, you know, when we talk about material things, you know, they're replaceable. Material things are replaceable. People are not. And so just say good words to your friends, good words to your family, and just always tell them you love them so very much, because that is what's going to save us, is to know that we're loved. Thank you.